Now, well, NASDAQ's going through distribution, and while it rose and went sideways, Apple corrected back to support. The NASDAQ and S&P had moved to new highs right after the Fed meeting. We saw Apple peak in January. It formed this double top, and it came down to the confirmation line, and now it's bouncing there just above that level. So that's a bullish event. Bouncing off support, we saw the weekly do a reversal bar right there. We saw some bullish divergences. We're still seeing, still at the 50 period in the daily time frame, but if we can clear that, then we can get a bigger move upward. It's likely that we're not going to be able to take out this peak over here, but again, get a bigger move as long as this level of support holds. But as NASDAQ's been getting distribution, we already had it January, or I should say late December, and then on into January here, and then our distribution followed, and that's taken us down to the support level. So again, we're in this trading range for Apple. So right here, again, buyers are coming in at this level of support. So I think that's short-term bullish for Apple. It can't make a new high, comes back and breaks this level, that's going to be bearish, or if it stalls sooner rather than later. But you get a bigger jump, and remember, these gaps down in the market recently, the Dow's had 3 gaps now that haven't filled. So we could get a rebound. The Dow has sold off 5%. It's playing catch up. Dow peaked right after the Fed meeting. Very next day, it's been going sideways, but level of support can hold. Start seeing the Dow attempt to rebound to try to fill some of those gaps, or maybe all of them. Apple can rebound. Horizontal support level is important because if we take this low right here and you go back, again, the trend line here, we almost reached it right there, but if you connect these 2 points, they point right down to this level right here where we hit, and we bounced the previous time to get the double top on Apple. So again, as long as this level holds right here, Apple can rebound. Apple has had other bullish things happen. Besides just bouncing off horizontal support right here, it's bounced off the 400 period moving average right there. Again, it's had a significant sell-off. Okay, and we have had a death cross here, but Apple has rebounded off of just above horizontal support, off of our 400 period moving average, and it has broken the downtrend in a bullish falling wedge. Do you see the bullish falling wedge? Risen up, we've had a big move, Thursday and Friday. After being down there at the 400 period on Wednesday, we've moved up here significantly. So we could get a back test of the trend line, but as long as you can hold above this trend line right here, and as long as you can hold above now the 10 period moving average, that's this little red line right here, and as long as you can hold above this horizontal support, our 400 period moving average, then Apple can get a rebound. It's had a sharp sell-off, and it may try to go back up and test the 200 period or overthrow it. We'll see what happens, or get a Fibonacci retracement. If it can't make new highs, then the double top will eventually be confirmed, dropping below the confirmation line here around just below 166. But right now, we're getting a significant rebound with Apple. Break of the downtrend, a bounce off the 400 period, and a push back above the 10 and 20 period moving averages. We're clearing the trending cloud, the momentum cloud, so we're getting momentum back up, and again, a bullish divergence formed at our low at the 400 period moving average there on the RSI, and down here on the MACD. Now, it's still negative territory. If we're going to get a bigger rebound, you got to go back into positive territory. If it rolls over on the center line, be bearish, but you do have bullish divergences, breaking a downtrend, bouncing off horizontal support, bouncing off the 400 period, and having momentum turn back to bullish. So again, some bullish events happening this week for Apple. Now keep in mind, we're now going to start getting a lot of earnings, and the Dow has sold off, over 5% after the Fed meeting. And if the Dow moves back to try to fill those gaps, then maybe Apple participates in that rally. It was down today, and inflation in JP Morgan dropped by 6.5%. Dow's become oversold now. So again, if we get earnings and we start seeing the Dow attempt to rebound, then Apple could benefit from that. It was actually up while a lot of things were down today. And remember, while the market rallied higher, it's now starting to turn here. Last few weeks, Apple peaked long ago, and it's now rebounding. There's been this decoupling, short-term decoupling between Apple and the stock market. The stock market was following Apple. NASDAQ's now following NVIDIA. NASDAQ's been going sideways. The Dow's been moving sharply lower. Again, the NASDAQ peaked the day after the Fed meeting on the 21st of March. So far, we have not been able to move above that level. The S&P moved slightly above it by 3 points and then turned back down. But we've been going sideways on NASDAQ. It's forming a triangle right now here outlined in black. You can see the rectangle there in pinkish color. But if we attempt to rebound, watch and see if we try to break up on this triangle, how attempts a rebound or not. NASDAQ came right back to the lower end of that triangle, back to the 50-period moving average. So Apple could attempt a rebound. If it does, NASDAQ breaks out of this triangle to the upside, it could still go hit the upper boundary of its channel. The Dow came down to its 20-week moving average. It's dropped by 2.3% or 2.37% this week. It had a sharp decline last week. The Dow attempts to rebound off the 20-week moving average as it's become pretty oversold. Then again, we may see a bounce with Apple on the Dow 30. It could help NASDAQ as well with the triangle. Support line I've talked about with the NASDAQ, that breaks, then you've got a confirmation of a double top pattern. But we may try to get a bigger rebound with those divergences daily time frame. The Dow's trying to form a bullish falling wedge. We may just blow through the bottom of this and keep falling. Saying that if we attempt to see the Dow go back up and fill the gaps, we might see a larger counter trend rebound move on Apple. The Dow has broken this trend line right here and goes back and tries to fill the gaps. Again, we may attempt to see a back test of that trend line right there. Here's the gap fill area right there. If we can get a rebound, the Dow might try to back test that level. Could possibly lead to a rebound in the market. I'm talking about the Dow's gaps because NASDAQ and S&P already filled their gaps. NASDAQ's been going sideways. We had a gap this week now that the gap from Friday that hasn't been filled now. Gapping lower on Friday, sharply lower in the market. Dow now has 3 gaps that have not filled. The ones that NASDAQ and S&P filled, the Dow never filled them. So again, that the Dow attempts to rebound back up, test this broken trend line right here or this trend line right here. If we attempt to go towards these trend lines or towards the moving averages, we might see for the market to rebound. Dow dropped nearly 600 points on Friday. It rebounded back up off of the lows. But it still closed down 475 points, down 1.25%. If the Dow, which is trying to form this bullish falling wedge here, if it can break out, you've got the gap from Friday lower, you got the gap earlier in the week here, and you got the gap from back near the highs. Sorry about that, had to cough. The highs over here, you've got 3 unfilled gaps. This gap right here and this gap right here, NASDAQ and S&P already filled those gaps. The Dow never did. So if we attempt, and we don't have to come back to fill all 3 gaps, you may just fill a few. But if we see a rebound in the Dow to fill these gaps, could see an attempted rebound on NASDAQ and S&P that could help Apple. You've got the bullish divergence here in the 60-minute time frame here, and this is a 60-minute time frame here with the Dow. So again, just something to think about. Should the Dow attempt to recover and try to fill some of these gaps, we very well could see a bigger attempted rebound with Apple. It still has a death cross. Go back up to test the 200 or even overthrow it and get a Fibonacci retracement. But we saw some very encouraging things with the bounce at support there on Thursday and Friday with Apple, and that is that we're seeing the power shift back to bullish. Now, the last time we got that, it didn't remain that way, and we turned down, and we ended up forming the bullish divergence. Now, with the bullish divergence, can it remain that way? You got above the rainbow cloud here. Okay, so the rainbow cloud is now turning green, and that's turning the swing trend line. You got above the swing trend line, and it's turning green, triggering the buy signal there with those turning bullish, and it's being validated with momentum shifting with the balance of power going in favor of the bulls. So again, can this give us a bigger rebound? It's got to remain bullish. If they turn right back to bearish, you take out that horizontal support level I've talked about, then that's going to be bearish. Momentum here, shifting bullish. If it can remain bullish, then again, we could try to get a bigger rebound, Fibonacci retracement, or go back and test the highs, something bigger if we can get above the 200 period moving average in the daily time frame. And if momentum can remain bullish, doesn't, flips back to bearish, take out horizontal support, then you're getting a confirmation of a double top. Likely going to get a bounce. If we go back and break that level for the double top that I've talked about, we're likely going to get a bounce. Now, at the October 2023 low, Apple bottomed out, formed a triple bullish divergence. I turned very bullish on Apple, and I said that would help the NASDAQ. Apple rose by 20%, again, December there, and then began to sell off there, reversing on into January, began to sell off late December on into January, attempted a rebound, got a lower high, and again, we've ended up dropping now 16.11% after rising by about 20.5%. So we've come down to this horizontal level of support, and we're trying to bounce here. Now, a buy signal has not been triggered. Last signal was a sell signal when the mass line turned to red, but bouncing here, and we are seeing signs of accumulation. That little star right there, and right here, the little blue arrow. So we saw signs of distribution back over here at the top, and again, the distribution in the weekly time frame that I've shown you at the beginning of this video actually led to the sell signal here, and it kind of went sideways, went to buy, and then back to sell, and it really produced a lower high and a lower low that gave us the sell-off back to support. So here we are at support. Do we get a bounce? We start seeing things turn bullish here, bring a buy signal, seeing critical mass line turn back to blue. Try to make an attempt to test the 200 or even get above it and get a Fibonacci retracement. Apple did clear VWAP resistance here on Thursday, but we've come up to this next level of VWAP resistance after clearing this level. So we now have VWAP support down here. It's a little green line you see right there. So again, Apple may pull back or consolidate the period moving average, back test a broken trend line if it attempts to get above these levels. And directly overhead is that 200 period as well as the VWAP resistance levels. But that could still take us up into low 180 range, up here for a test of the 200, and maybe we overthrow it, and then that's the waiting game to see if we can get back above that 200. But you do have the 50 below the 200, which is not a good sign and could eventually confirm the double top on Apple. Other positive things going on with Apple, not just bouncing off support and breaking the downtrend and seeing some strength, but we also are seeing some signals turn back to bullish. Apple formed bullish divergences with indicators at key support. A lot of them are still in negative territory, so they got to go into positive territory if we're going to get a bigger rebound. But you did trigger some bullish signals here with the micro trend and the one-day trend right here. Again, the line, one-day trend, it's turning back to bullish. So we're seeing some strength here. That doesn't mean we won't get a pullback or try to backtest a breakout of the trend line. As long as these lows from our divergence can hold at key support without taking it out, then you've got a shot at bigger rebound and Fibonacci retracement. The positive signs with Apple, again, these bullish divergences on my indicators have played out, and we've now gotten above the critical mass line in my critical mass cloud 2.0, and we're back into the positive portion of the cloud here. Tempted that over here with the lower high, but it failed. Okay, tempted it right here, couldn't do it. Mass line's been red, now it's turning back to blue, so you got a shot at it now. Critical mass oscillator moving into positive territory here. So again, positive things, bouncing off horizontal support. So we'll be watching the 200 period moving average. We'll be watching to see if we can get above the 50. We halted at it. Fibonacci retracement, let me show you that. I do want to tell you one thing, that Apple forming the double top pattern that we had and came down, and it did break this long-term trend line on the monthly chart. That is problematic, and here it is to the right up close. You can see the Apple trend line has broken long term. Okay, and we could just try to back test it, but you could go get a bigger rebound back testing that trend line. We broke it. It could back test, could even go up here and form a triple top if Apple can attempt to rebound without taking out this confirmation line of the double top. Then Apple's got a shot at a rebound here. And again, there's the double top there. If we come back up here, you might form a triple top if we get a big rebound. If we get a lower high, then you could come back and break this level. But the problem is that you've broken this long-term trend line here on Apple. But again, bullish events taking place for Apple this week. And again, Apple can get some real traction to the upside. It's been down 3 months straight. It can get some traction to the upside, but you still have broken a major trend line in the monthly time frame, which is problematic for a bullish case going forward. Another positive thing about Apple is it canceled out the 9 count signal. It didn't finish it. It was bullish and it canceled it out. Now you have a new 1 of a 9 to the upside. Over here, it formed a 13 and it tried to form the 9 count sell signal. So bearish it couldn't finish it after the 13 and it formed that double top pattern. Here it was so bullish at support that it couldn't finish the count. Here it was so bearish it couldn't finish the count. So again, another positive sign with Apple in the weekly time frame. We're seeing momentum turn back up. It is still negative, but it is turning back up after that bearish divergence that happened with the double top. So again, some positive things happening here at support. But like I said, you break this level of support, then that's going to be bearish. Confirm the double top, but you get a bounce here. You can form a triple top, or you can form counter trend for a handle of the pattern. If it does set up a lower high, there's always a possibility of a descending triangle, which would be bearish, but that means that we get rejection around the 200 period moving average. So just some things to be paying attention to. Apple bounces off key support. As long as support holds, it can go higher, but you break that level and look out below. Now, let's look at the Fibonacci retracements of this decline right here. Now, Apple came up. Sorry, I'm having a little cough. Please excuse me. The rally on Thursday and Friday, we got the big rally back up, and we halted, just overthrowing our 50 period, the green line right there. So again, you can have further consolidation, but you got these divergences. So we'll be watching, does this low hold? And, you know, the double top here, do we hold above the confirmation line and get a bounce? So that's really key. Can we hold above this level? If we can get up to the 200, that's our 50% retracement area. That's at 183, currently at 183, just below or just above our 200 period moving average. If you can get above the 200, you can try to go into the golden pocket right here. The golden pocket between the 61.8 Fibonacci and the 78.6 Fibonacci retracement of this decline is between the 61.8 Fibonacci is at 187, the 78.6 Fibonacci is at 192.5. So between 187 and 192.5, if you can get above the 200, get above the 50% retracement at 183, you got a shot at going to 187 or 192.5. If you can clear those levels, if you can clear the golden pocket here, then you've got a shot at forming a triple top. A triple top coming back up here and testing this level. Now, again, I don't know if Apple gets that high. Market moved up and NASDAQ went sideways. Apple dropped during the first quarter, rebound during the second quarter here. It's broken the long-term downtrend, so it could have problems going forward. We'll have to be watching. Does it get back above that trend line that it broke? It's back tested. It's probably going up just to back test it. Have it. Apple turning bullish on a lot of signals, bouncing off horizontal support, bouncing off the 400 period moving average, now back above the 10 and 20. Pull back, those are going to be the support levels, but can it remain above the 10 period moving average? One last thing, another positive sign. Again, we had these bullish divergences. Got to still get the MACD in positive territory if we're going to get a bigger rebound. But you did get a bullish reversal of conditions, getting back above the 10 and 20 period moving average. You broke above the upper boundary of the cloud here and flipped it back to bullish. Again, a lot of my signals turning bullish there on Thursday. Apple may get some traction back up to test the 200 or maybe at 182 or maybe overthrow it if we can get above the 50% retracement and our 200 period. Then you can get a bigger rebound for Apple. But some positive bullish things forming here, just like we had back in October of 2023. We had a bullish, triple bullish divergence back at that bottom that gave us a 20.5% rally, sold off back towards that level, and with the bullish divergences here, after selling off back all those gains, we're now forming new bullish divergences. So we'll see if we can try to get back. But again, this is a bearish event right here with the 50 crossing below the 200. Have to change in order for a bullish scenario to happen, but Apple could clearly get a larger retracement if support, the support I showed you that we're bouncing off of and the 400 period moving average, if those levels can hold. And once again, that's this line right here. That is the confirmation line to the double top. If we break it, then that's bearish. But you're breaking out of this trend line. If we back test it and then try to get a bigger bounce up, or just try to clear the 50 period, you can hit one of those Fibonacci retracements, make an attempt to come towards that 200 period moving average. But we lose this level of support right here, that's going to be bearish, and you'll get a bigger dump confirmation to the double top pattern. So can we rebound? Can we go up and form a triple top? As long as the 50 is below the 200, Apple's going to have problems, but that doesn't mean you can't move above those levels. If the 50 remains below the 200, if you do move above those levels, then it means that the rally is going to eventually end up failing, even if you clear the 50 and the 200, because the death cross will remain. If it goes away, then that's a positive sign for Apple.